Let's talk about Israel. It's a nation that's only 75 years old, born in the middle of a desert and constantly surrounded by conflict. And yet, today, it's an absolute global economic and military powerhouse. So how on earth did that happen? We're going to unpack the incredible story of its transformation. So this is the big question, right? It's the central paradox we're digging into. How did a country starting with so many disadvantages become so prosperous and powerful? In this explainer, we're going to uncover the key factors that help turn that scarcity into a superpower. And look, this success isn't just some vague idea. The numbers tell the real story. With a GDP per capita of over $52,000, Israel doesn't just dwarf its neighbors. Look at that difference. It's actually surpassed major European economies like France and the UK. It's pretty staggering. To really appreciate just how big of a deal this is, you have to go back to the very beginning. When Israel was founded in 1948, it was mostly on dry, arid land. It had none of the oil or gas or mineral reserves that have fueled so many other economies in the region. The starting conditions were, to put it mildly, not great. So how did they even manage to survive those early years? Well, the answer really boils down to two things: getting some critical help from the outside, and then overcoming a massive crisis from within. That early survival really came down to two essential pillars of support. First up, you had the United States, which saw Israel as a strategic ally and provided a vital lifeline of financial aid and credit. And second, there was the global Jewish diaspora, which stepped up in a huge way, injecting capital, buying state bonds, and using their international networks to really open doors for Israeli businesses. But, all that external aid couldn't solve everything. Because of the constant security threats, Israel had to spend a massive amount of money on defense. At the same time, the government was also committed to high social spending for its people. This combo created a huge government deficit. Simply put, the country was spending way more than it was taking in. So to cover that gap, Israel did what a lot of governments in crisis do. It started printing money, a lot of it. And the result? It was an absolute catastrophe. By the 1980s, the country was dealing with hyperinflation that peaked at an incredible 350% per year. The economy was right on the brink of total collapse. So, facing total disaster, the government took two really decisive and, honestly, pretty painful steps. First, it slashed public spending to get that deficit under control. And second, it made its central bank independent, which took the power to just print money away from the politicians. It was tough medicine for sure, but it worked. By 1987, inflation was under control. Okay, so with the economy finally stabilized, Israel could pivot from just surviving to actually growing. And this next phase, this is really the heart of its modern success story. The deliberate, intentional creation of an innovation engine designed to build a global tech superpower. Now this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Israel basically turned its greatest vulnerability, that constant security threat, into its biggest economic advantage. The military's relentless need for a technological edge became the unlikely cradle for a massive civilian tech industry. And yeah, this was no accident. Elite military tech units, like the famous Cyber Warfare Unit 8200, essentially became the country's first tech incubators. You had young soldiers getting world-class, hands-on training in fields like cybersecurity and data analysis, and building these powerful networks that they would later use as entrepreneurs. And all of this just created the perfect storm. You had the economic stability from the late 80s that set the stage. Then, with the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, Israel got this massive injection of human capital. Over 1 million highly educated immigrants who are ready and willing to fuel a brand new knowledge-based economy. The really crucial part here is how Israel intentionally engineered this whole thing. The government created what people call a triple helix, this powerful synergy where university research feeds military R&D, which in turn produces elite talent that flows right into private industry, and then the government helps fuel the whole cycle with venture capital. It's a self-sustaining innovation machine. And they put their money where their mouth is. Israel invests 5.4% of its entire GDP into research and development. Now, to put that in perspective, that is the highest percentage in the world. It's more than double what countries like France invest, and more than triple the investment of Spain. Innovation isn't just a buzzword there, it's a national priority. So what do you get from all this investment and this incredible synergy? Well, you get a highly diversified, world-leading high-tech economy that punches way, way above its weight class. The results really do speak for themselves. Israel is a global powerhouse in cybersecurity, which makes sense coming right out of its military intelligence units. It's a leader in designing complex semiconductors. Its defense tech is exported all over the world. And it's even a pioneer in things you might not expect, like agritech and water technology.
You know, the story of their agriculture is probably the best example of this whole mindset. Faced with a desert landscape, Israel didn't just see an obstacle, it saw an engineering problem that needed to be solved. And through massive innovation, they literally made the desert bloom, becoming a world leader in agritech and a major exporter of produce. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, and it isn't about money or policy, it's about culture. It's a unique mindset that really fuels this entire engine. And that mindset can pretty much be summed up in a single Yiddish word, chutzpah. It roughly translates to audacity or boldness, but in practice, it's this cultural spirit of entrepreneurship. It means you embrace risk, you're willing to challenge authority and the way things have always been done, and this is critical, you see failure not as an end, but just as a learning opportunity on the way to success. It is the lifeblood of what they call Startup Nation.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's bring it all together. Let's summarize the key pillars that really explain this Israeli economic miracle.
So it all really comes down to these 4 pillars. It started with foreign aid just to survive. That was followed by the tough economic discipline needed to build a stable foundation. From there, that triple helix created a powerful innovation ecosystem, which was then supercharged by that massive national investment in R&D.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really fascinating question to think about. Israel's path was forged through a very specific and unique set of circumstances: geopolitics, existential crises, and a particular cultural drive. So, is this a model that other nations can actually learn from and replicate? Or is it a truly one-of-a-kind story? That's definitely something to chew on.